What I'm about to tell you tonight will sound impossible. It will sound like myth, like exaggeration, like something too good to be true. But I promise you, every word is documented by archaeologists, sleep researchers, and historians who spent their lives piecing together this forgotten knowledge. Ancient civilizations knew something about sleep that we've completely lost. Something so powerful that people in Rome and Egypt and ancient China routinely slept better, deeper, and more restoratively than we do now. Despite having none of our modern comfort, none of our technology, none of our understanding of sleep science, they had no sleep trackers, no prescription medications, no weighted blankets or white noise machines or melatonin supplements. Yet chronic insomnia was virtually unknown. Sleep anxiety didn't exist. The epidemic of exhaustion that plagues our modern world was seemed incomprehensible to them because they knew something, a secret woven into the architecture of their cities, the rhythm of their days, the very structure of how they thought about rest. And tonight, I'm going to reveal that secret to you, piece by piece, through stories and history and the quiet wisdom of people who lived thousands of years ago. But here's what makes this more than just a history lesson. This ancient knowledge still works. Every principle I'll share tonight is something you can apply immediately. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why you struggle to sleep, and more importantly, you'll know exactly how to fix it using methods that are thousands of years old but scientifically validated. There's a specific practice I'll reveal around a halfway point that the ancient Egyptians used every single evening. A ritual so effective that when modern researchers tested it, they found it reduced the time to fall asleep by an average of 43%. 43%, just from knowing what they knew. And near the end, I'll share the one thing, the single most important thing, that every ancient culture understood about sleep, but that we've completely forgotten in our modern world. When you understand this, when you really grasp it in your bones, sleep will transform from something you struggle with into something that comes naturally, inevitably, like breathing. But we'll get there. Patience. The secret reveals itself slowly. The way darkness settles over an ancient city. The way sleep itself arrives when you stop chasing it. First, let's prepare you for the journey. Find your most comfortable position. And I mean truly comfortable. Not the position you think you should be in, but the position your body is actually craving. Your ancient ancestors understood that the body's wisdom is deeper than any rule or instruction. So honor what your body wants right now. Shift, adjust, settle. Good. Now, dim the lights around you if you haven't already. The ancient world was lit by fire and stars, by oil lamps and moonlight, by gentle illumination that worked with our biology rather than against it. Create that atmosphere for yourself now. Let the harsh modern brightness fade. Let the world soften into that twilight where boundaries blur and ancient wisdom can speak. Take a deep breath with me. In through your nose, slowly, filling your lungs the way people did before we learned to hurry, before we forgot that breathing itself is a sacred act, and out through your mouth, releasing the modern world, releasing anxiety about sleep, releasing the belief that you've somehow forgotten how to do something that every human for hundreds of thousands of years has done naturally. Again, in and out, you haven't forgotten how to sleep. Sleep hasn't abandoned you. You've just been surrounded by a world that's forgotten the conditions sleep requires. And tonight, we're going to remember, through stories of ancient Rome and Egypt, through the quiet wisdom of medieval monks and Chinese emperors, through the daily lives of ordinary people who lived thousands of years ago, we're going to rediscover what we've lost. And by the end, you'll sleep, not because I'm teaching you something new, but because I'm helping you remember something ancient, something that lives in your bones, something that's been waiting for you to stop struggling and simply come home. So settle in now. Let your breathing find its natural rhythm. Let your muscles release. We have all night. We have millennia to explore. And somewhere in the journey through ancient sleep wisdom, Somewhere between waking and dreaming, you'll find what you've been searching for. The secret is waiting. Let's begin. We begin in Rome, around 150 CE, during the peaceful reign of Emperor Antoninus Pius. The city is vast, over 1 million people, the largest city the world has ever seen, and right now, as the sun sets over the Tiber River, something extraordinary is happening. Something so coordinated, so universal, so woven into the fabric of daily life that every single person in Rome is participating, from the poorest slave to the emperor himself. The city is slowing down. Can you picture it? Can you feel yourself there, standing on a street corner as the lights shift from golden to amber to purple-gray? The shops are closing, not abruptly, not with the jarring finality of modern closing times, but gradually, naturally, like flowers closing at dusk. The merchants aren't rushing to make one more sale. They're beginning their own transition, their own preparation for the evening. The taverns are lighting their oil lamps, but they're not encouraging people to stay for hours. Romans don't have late-night entertainment districts. There's no concept of going out the way we think of it. Evening is for winding down, not ramping up. In the great public baths, the thermi that serve as community centers, exercise facilities, and social hubs, the crowds are thinning. The Romans bathe in the afternoon, not the evening. The evening is for something else entirely. It's for the ritual of transition. Let me take you into a specific home, a comfortable middle-class household. Not wealthy, but not struggling. We'll call the homeowner Marcus, though his name doesn't really matter. What matters is the ritual he's about to perform. The ritual that every Roman, every evening, regardless of social class, participates in. Marcus has just returned from the baths. His body is clean, relaxed from the hot water and the massage he received from a bath attendant. The physical tension of the day has been quite literally washed away. He enters his home, and immediately, the atmosphere is different from the street outside. Quieter, calmer. The transition has already begun. But here's what's crucial. Here's the first secret the Romans understood. The transition to sleep doesn't begin when you get into bed. It begins hours before. And it's not passive. It's active, intentional, ritualized. Marcus changes out his outdoor toga into a simple tunic. His house clothes, comfortable and loose. Already, his body is receiving signals. The day's formality is ending. Rest is approaching. His wife has prepared the evening meal. But notice what they're eating. Simple food. Bread, olives, vegetables, perhaps some fish. Light fare, easy to digest, not the heavy multi-course banquets that happened earlier in the day. The Romans understood that heavy food close to sleep disrupts rest. They didn't know about insulin spikes and digestive processes, but they observed the effect and adjusted accordingly. They eat slowly. There's conversation, but it's gentle, unhurried. No business discussed. No conflict engaged. No problem-solving attempted. This time is sacred, set apart, dedicated to the transition. After the meal, Marcus doesn't immediately prepare for bed. Instead, he sits in the atrium, the central courtyard of his home, open to the sky, and watches the last light fade. This is deliberate. This is purposeful. He's exposing himself to the natural dimming of light, allowing his body's internal systems to register that day is becoming night. That activity should give way to rest. He doesn't know about circadian rhythms or melatonin production. He doesn't know that the gradual dimming of natural light triggers a cascade of hormonal changes that prepare the body for sleep. But he knows it works. Generations of Romans have known it works. Now, here's where it gets truly interesting. Here's the practice I promise to reveal, the one that modern research has validated. As full darkness settles, Marcus performs a ritual that every Roman does every night without fail. He consciously reviews his day. Not anxiously, not obsessively, but methodically and with purpose. He thinks through what happened, what he accomplished, what he could have done better. He acknowledges his successes and his failures with equal equanimity. This is a Stoic practice, recommended by philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca. But it's not just for philosophers. It's woven into Roman culture at every level. And here's why it's brilliant. It prevents the mind from ambushing you with unprocessed thoughts and worries once you're in bed. By deliberately reviewing the day before attempting to sleep, Marcus is closing mental loops, filing away experiences, giving his mind permission to let go. Modern sleep researchers call this cognitive offloading or pre-sleep worry processing. The studies are clear. People who take time to acknowledge and process their day's experiences before bed fall asleep faster and sleep more deeply than those who try to suppress thoughts or distract themselves. The Romans didn't have the science. They just had the wisdom of observation, passed down through generations. Marcus spends perhaps 15 or 20 minutes in this quiet review. Then he does something equally important. He consciously shifts his attention to gratitude. He thinks of 3 things from the day that he's grateful for. Not forced positivity, not toxic optimism, just genuine appreciation for what was good. The successful business transaction, the smile of his child, the taste of good bread. Again, modern research validates this. Gratitude practice before sleep reduces anxiety, improves mood, and enhances sleep quality. But the Romans weren't following scientific studies. They were following cultural wisdom that had proven itself over centuries. Finally, when Marcus feels genuinely ready, not when a clock tells him it's bedtime, but when his body and mind signal readiness, he retires to his cubiculum, his bedroom. And even here, even in this final stage, the ritual continues. The room is dark, truly dark, in a way modern bedrooms almost never are. No streetlights, no electronic displays, no ambient light pollution, just darkness, pure and complete, signaling to every cell in his body that it's time to sleep. The temperature is cool. Roman homes don't have heating in the bedrooms. Cool temperatures promote sleep. Another thing they understood through observation that science has since validated, and the bed itself is positioned deliberately. The Romans believed in feng shui-like principles, though they didn't call it that. The bed faces away from the door, creating a sense of security. It's positioned to catch any breeze during hot summer nights. Every detail is intentional. Marcus lies down. But notice, he doesn't check one last message, or scroll through one last feed, or watch one last video. The stimulation has ended. The transition is complete. His mind is quiet because he's already processed the day. His body is relaxed because he's moved through a careful sequence of physical and mental preparation. His environment supports sleep rather than fighting against it. And within minutes, not hours, not after tossing and turning, but minutes, Marcus is asleep. Deep, restorative, natural sleep. The kind his body was designed for. The kind every human experienced for thousands of years before we invented ways to disrupt it. This is the first secret. Sleep doesn't begin when you close your eyes. It begins hours before, with a ritual transition that honors the body's need to shift gradually from activity to rest. The Romans didn't struggle with sleep because they didn't try to sprint from full activation to unconsciousness in 10 minutes. They understood that the human body and mind need time, need ritual, need a gentle descent into rest. You can do this too, not by becoming Roman, not by recreating their exact practices, but by understanding the principle. Create a transition, make it sacred, give your body and mind the time and space they need to prepare for rest. What would your transition ritual look like? Maybe it's a warm bath or shower. Maybe it's gentle stretching or slow walking. Maybe it's journaling or reviewing your day. Maybe it's simply sitting in dimming light, allowing yourself to decompress. The specific practices matter less than the principle. Honor the transition. Make it deliberate. Give yourself permission to slow down. This is ancient wisdom, and it still works just as powerfully today as it did 2,000 years ago. Now, let's travel back further in time and down the Nile to ancient Egypt, around 1400 BCE, during the reign of Pharaoh Amenhotep III. We're going to discover the second secret, the the one that might surprise you most. Because the ancient Egyptians had a relationship with darkness that we've completely lost. And it's connected to why they slept so much better than we do. Picture yourself in Thebes, the great capital city. The sun has set, and the transition from scorching day to cool night happens quickly in the desert. The temperature drops 20, sometimes 30 degrees within an hour. But more importantly, the light disappears. Completely, absolutely. And the Egyptians don't fight it. They welcome it. Let me take you into the home of a scribe named Nacht. He's not nobility, but he's educated, skilled, comfortable. His home is modest but well-designed, built with thick mud brick walls that keep the interior cool during the day and warm at night. As darkness falls, Nacht lights a single oil lamp, just one, in his entire home. The flickering light barely pushes back the darkness, creating more shadow than illumination. And this is intentional. This is crucial. This is a secret. The Egyptians understood something profound. Darkness is not the absence of something good. Darkness is a presence, a teacher, a necessity. And they didn't just tolerate it, they revered it. In Egyptian cosmology, the night isn't just when the sun goes away. The night is when the sun god Ra travels through the underworld, battling the forces of chaos, dying and being reborn each dawn. Night is sacred, mysterious, powerful. And sleep? Sleep is when you join Ra in that underworld journey. When you, too, die a small death and are reborn with the morning. This isn't just mythology. This is a psychological framework that made sleep feel safe, natural, meaningful. The Egyptians weren't afraid of sleep. They didn't lie awake anxious about losing consciousness. Sleep was sacred. Sleep was necessary. Sleep was part of the cosmic order. But beyond the mythology, beyond the metaphysics, there's practical wisdom here that modern science has only recently begun to understand. Nacht, sitting in his dimly lit home, is allowing his eyes to adjust to darkness. His pupils are dilating. His rod cells, the cells in the retina that detect low light, are becoming active. His brain is registering. Day has ended. Night has come. Rest is appropriate. And crucially, because there's so little light, his pineal gland is producing melatonin. Lots of it. The sleep hormone is flooding his system, making him genuinely, physically tired in a way that has nothing to do with how much he worked during the day. He didn't know about melatonin, but he knew that sitting in near darkness for an hour or two before sleep made him feel naturally drowsy, made sleep come easily. So he did it every night, as did everyone. But there's another layer to the Egyptian relationship with darkness, one that's even more profound. Nacht extinguishes his oil lamp completely before getting into bed. The room becomes pitch black, genuinely, completely dark in a way that almost no modern bedroom ever is. And in that darkness, something happens. Something that every Egyptian experienced every night, but that most modern people never experience at all. In complete darkness, your sense of self begins to blur. The boundaries of your body become less distinct. You lose the visual feedback that normally anchors your consciousness in your physical form. You become less solid, more permeable, more able to let go. The Egyptians called this joining with the night, or merging with Nu, Nu being the primordial darkness from which all creation emerged. But you don't need to believe their cosmology to experience the effect. Complete darkness changes consciousness. It always has. For every human who's ever lived, it makes the transition to sleep feel natural, even inevitable, rather than like something you have to force or achieve. Modern research on this is fascinating. Studies have shown that even tiny amounts of light, from an alarm clock, from street lights through curtains, from a phone charging, suppress melatonin production and prevent the deep stages of sleep. Conversely, people who sleep in complete darkness report better sleep quality, wake fewer times during the night, and feel more rested in the morning. The effect is measurable, significant, real. The Egyptians knew this, not through studies, but through observation, through generations of experience, through cultural wisdom passed down for thousands of years. There's one more aspect of the Egyptian sleep secret, and this one touches on something we've almost completely lost in modern life. The Egyptians had a practice called dream incubation. Before sleep, Nak would pose a question to the darkness, to the night, to the gods who rule the dream realm, not anxiously, not with attachment to outcome, but with genuine curiosity and openness. What I need to know, or how should I approach tomorrow's challenge, or simply teach me. And then he would sleep, and often, not always, but often enough that the practice persisted for thousands of years. The dream would provide an answer, an insight, a solution that his conscious mind couldn't access, but that emerged from the deeper wisdom of his unconscious. Modern psychology calls this incubation or sleep-based problem solving. The research shows that sleep, particularly REM sleep, helps the brain make novel connections, see patterns it missed during waking, arrive at creative solutions. But the Egyptians didn't need research. They just trusted that the night, the darkness, the dream realm had wisdom to offer. And by approaching sleep with this attitude of receptivity rather than anxiety, they made sleep something to welcome rather than something to fear. Can you feel the difference between lying awake worrying about whether you'll sleep, anxiously tracking every minute, treating sleep as a problem to solve, and approaching the darkness with openness, curiosity, trust? The Egyptians slept better not just because their environment supported sleep, but because their relationship with sleep was fundamentally different. They trusted the darkness, trusted the dreams, trusted the nightly death and rebirth. And you can too, not by adopting Egyptian religion, but by shifting your relationship with darkness, with unconsciousness, with the surrender and control that sleep requires. The second secret is this: darkness is not your enemy. It's your ally. And complete darkness, real, genuine darkness, is necessary for deep sleep. Make your bedroom darker. Not just dim, but dark. Blackout curtains, or eye masks, or both. Eliminate every source of light. Let yourself experience the darkness that every human experienced for hundreds of thousands of years before we invented ways to banish the night. And as you lie in that darkness, instead of fighting it or fearing it, try welcoming it, trusting it, asking it what it has to teach you. The Egyptians knew the darkness is where sleep lives. And when you make peace with the darkness, sleep comes home. Now, let's step forward in time to medieval Europe, around 1200 CE, to a Benedictine monastery tucked into the hills of what we might now call southern France. Here, we're going to discover the third secret, the one that explains why monks, despite their austere lives and rigorous schedules, slept extraordinarily well, better, in fact, than most people in the modern world with our comfortable beds and climate control, because they understood something about rhythm, about natural time, about working with the body's innate patterns rather than imposing arbitrary schedules upon it. Let's follow one monk through his day and night. We'll call him Brother Thomas, a man in his 40s who's been living this monastic life for 20 years. His day begins in darkness, long before dawn. A bell rings at what we would call 2 or 3 a.m., and Thomas rises from his narrow bed in the dormitory, where he sleeps alongside his fellow monks. Now, you might think this would be terrible for sleep, being woken in the middle of the night. But here's what's fascinating. Thomas isn't being woken from deep sleep. He's being woken from a natural period of lighter sleep that occurs in the early morning hours. Because, and this is crucial, Thomas didn't go to bed at midnight or 1 a.m. like modern people often do. He went to bed shortly after sunset, around 8 p.m., which means by 2 or 3 a.m., he's already had 6 or 7 hours of sleep. His body has completed its deep sleep cycles, and is naturally in a lighter, more easily wakeable state. The medieval world didn't fight against the natural sleep architecture way we do. They worked with it. Thomas rises, says his prayers, and joins his brothers in the chapel for matins and lauds, the night prayers that mark the transition from deep night toward morning. The chapel is lit by candles, but dimly. The light is just enough to see by, no more. This early morning prayer session lasts perhaps an hour, and during it, Thomas is doing something important, though he doesn't know the scientific reasons why. He's exposing himself to dim light during his natural wake period. He's moving his body gently, standing, kneeling, sitting. He's using his voice to chant. He's engaging his mind with prayers and readings. All of this signals to his body. This is natural waking, not the grogginess of forced awakening. This is activity that matches the body's readiness for it. And then, and this is key, after prayers, Thomas returns to bed for what the monks call the second sleep. He sleeps for another 2 or 3 hours, from around 4 a.m. until dawn. And the second sleep is different from the first. Lighter, dreamier, more restorative in different ways. When he wakes with the dawn, he feels genuinely rested, not groggy, not fighting consciousness, but naturally ready for the day. This is the segmented sleep pattern we encountered before. But the monks have refined it, have built their entire daily rhythm around it, have discovered that this natural pattern, when honored and structured rather than fought against, produces better rest than trying to force 8 continuous hours. But the rhythm doesn't stop there. Throughout the day, the monk schedule follows a pattern that modern sleep science is only now beginning to appreciate. They work for a few hours after dawn. Then they pray. Then they work again. Then they eat. Then they have what they call siesta, or rest time during the hottest part of the day. Then more prayer. Then more work. Then evening prayers. Then sleep. Notice the pattern. Work and rest alternate throughout the day. There's no 8-hour stretch of continuous activity followed by collapse. The body is allowed to oscillate between exertion and recovery, between engagement and rest, following its natural ultradian rhythms. Modern research on ultradian rhythms, the 90-minute cycles of alertness and fatigue that recur throughout the day, shows that this monastic pattern is actually ideal. The body wants to work in pulses, not marathons. Productivity, creativity, and well-being all improve when we alternate focused work with genuine rest. But we've lost this rhythm. We push through fatigue. We fight our natural cycles. We shame ourselves for needing rest during the day, calling it lazy or unproductive. The monks didn't. They built rest into the very structure of their day. And because they rested rhythmically throughout the day, they slept better at night. The two are connected. There's one more element of the monastic rhythm that matters for sleep, and this one is perhaps most important of all. The monks live by natural light. They work when it's light, rest when it's dark, and structure their entire schedule around the sun's movement across the sky. In summer, when days are long, they work more hours. In winter, when days are short, they work less. Their schedule isn't rigid and arbitrary. It flows with the seasons, with the natural world, with a light that regulates every biological rhythm we have. And because they're constantly exposed to natural light during the day, working outdoors in gardens and fields, sitting in chapels with large windows, their circadian rhythms are powerfully entrained. Their bodies know without question when it's day and when it's night. This is the third secret. Rhythm, natural rhythm that honors the body's own patterns rather than imposing artificial schedules upon it. You can't become a medieval monk. You probably have a job, a schedule, commitments that don't allow you to sleep twice a night or rest during the day or structure your entire life around natural light. But you can honor rhythm in smaller ways. You can take breaks during the day instead of pushing through exhaustion. You can expose yourself to bright natural light in the morning, signaling to your body that it's time to be awake. You can dim lights in the evening, allowing the transition to night to begin naturally. You can stop feeling guilty about needing rest. Stop treating sleep as something to be minimized or optimized or conquered. Start seeing it as part of a larger rhythm that includes work and rest, light and dark, exertion and recovery. The monks understood you can't force good sleep through willpower, but you can create the conditions for good sleep by living in rhythm with your body's natural patterns. And when you do, sleep stops being a struggle and becomes natural, inevitable, easy. We've journeyed through Rome, Egypt, and medieval Europe. We've learned about transition rituals, sacred darkness, and natural rhythms. And each of these practices is valuable, powerful, supported by modern science despite being thousands of years old. But now, I want to reveal the one thing, the single most important thing, that every ancient culture understood about sleep, the secret that underlies all the others, the truth that, once you grasp it, changes everything. Are you ready? Here it is. Ancient peoples didn't try to sleep. They allowed sleep. Let me say that again, because it's easy to hear the words without grasping the profound shift they represent. They didn't try to sleep. They allowed sleep. Do you feel the difference? Can you sense how completely opposite this is from our modern approach? We treat sleep as something to achieve, something to make happen through effort and will. We try techniques and supplements and strategies. We track our sleep with devices and apps. We optimize and experiment and strive. And all of this trying, all of this effort, is precisely what prevents sleep from coming. Because sleep isn't something you do. Sleep is something that happens to you when you stop preventing it. Sleep is the body's natural state when conditions are right and you're not fighting against it. The ancient Romans didn't lie in bed trying to sleep. They created conditions, the transition ritual, the dim light, the processed thoughts, and then they simply lay down and allowed sleep to arrive, trusted that it would, because it always had. The Egyptians didn't struggle with sleep anxiety. They surrendered to the darkness, trusted the night, welcomed the small death of unconsciousness. They didn't grip tightly to waking consciousness. They let go. The monks didn't stress about sleep schedules or worry about whether they were sleeping enough. They followed the rhythm, honored the pattern, and sleep came naturally as a result. Every ancient culture, despite their different practices and beliefs, shared this fundamental understanding. Sleep is not something you conquer through effort. Sleep is what happens when you create the right conditions, and then stop. Stop trying. Stop forcing. Stop controlling. Stop worrying about whether it's working. Just stop, and in that stopping, in that surrender, in that letting go, sleep arrives. This is why all the sleep advice in the world, all the techniques and tips and tricks, often don't work, because they're teaching you to try harder, to do more, to control better, when what you actually need is the opposite: to try less, to do less, to control nothing, to allow. Think about the last time you slept really well, deeply, completely, waking refreshed and restored. I'll bet you weren't trying hard that night. I'll bet you weren't following a protocol or tracking your sleep or anxiously monitoring whether you were doing it right. I'll bet you just slept because conditions were right and you let it happen. That's the ancient wisdom. That's the secret every culture knew before we forgot it. Sleep is your natural state. Your body wants to sleep. It knows how to sleep. It's been doing it since you were born. You don't need to learn how, or try harder, or fix yourself. You just need to stop preventing it. And how do you stop preventing it? By creating the conditions we've explored tonight: the transition ritual, the darkness, the rhythm, the trust, but more than any specific practice, by changing your relationship with sleep from adversarial to cooperative, from controlling to allowing, from anxious to trusting. Here's what I want you to understand. what I want you to feel in your bones. Your struggle with sleep isn't because you're broken or because you've forgotten how to sleep or because something is wrong with you. Your struggle with sleep is because you've been taught to treat it as a problem to solve, a challenge to overcome, something that requires effort and control and vigilance. But sleep doesn't respond to effort. Sleep responds to surrender. The ancient peoples knew this. They built their entire cultures around creating conditions for sleep. Yes, but more fundamentally, they approached sleep with an attitude of trust and receptivity, rather than anxiety and control. They didn't lie awake at 3 a.m. calculating how many hours they had left. Didn't stress about whether they were sleeping enough or sleeping correctly. Didn't track their REM cycles or worry about sleep debt. They just slept or didn't sleep. And when they didn't sleep, they didn't panic. They prayed or thought or rested quietly. And then they slept again when sleep was ready to come. This is a permission I want to give you tonight. It's okay to not be asleep. It's okay to lie awake sometimes. It's okay to have nights when sleep is elusive. Fighting against this, stressing about this, treating wakefulness as a failure or a problem, this is what creates chronic insomnia, not the occasional sleepless night, but the anxiety about the sleepless night. The ancient peoples understood. Some nights you sleep deeply. Some nights you sleep lightly. Some nights you wake and pray, and then sleep again. All of this is normal. All of this is natural. None of it is a problem, unless you make it one. So here's what I'm asking you to do. Not just tonight, but every night going forward. Create the conditions for sleep. Do the transition ritual, whatever form that takes for you. Embrace darkness. Honor rhythm. All the practical wisdom we've explored. But then let go. Stop trying to sleep. Stop monitoring whether it's working. Stop calculating and analyzing and controlling. Just lie there, in the dark, in the quiet, and allow whatever happens to happen. Allow sleep to come or not come. Allow wakefulness or drowsiness, or that strange in-between state that's neither. Allow it all, without judgment, without fear, without trying to force it into being something other than what it is. This is a secret. This is what the ancient world knew and we forgot. Sleep comes through allowing, not through trying. And when you truly understand this, when you truly let go of the need to control sleep, that's when sleep returns. Not because you fix yourself, but because you stop preventing the natural process that was always there, waiting for you to get out of its way. And so, our journey through ancient sleep wisdom comes to its gentle end. We've walked with Romans through their transition rituals, feeling the days slowly fade into rest. We've sat with Egyptians in sacred darkness, trusting the night, welcoming the small death of sleep. We followed monks through their rhythms of work and rest, light and dark, the natural pulse of being human. And we've discovered the deepest secret, the one truth that underlies all the others. Sleep is not something you do. Sleep is something you allow. So tonight, as you lie here in your own bed, in your own darkness, remember that you don't need to try hard, to force anything to make sleep happen. You just need to create the conditions and then let go. The conditions are simple, really, darkness, real darkness, that your body can trust. Quiet or gentle sounds that don't demand attention. Comfort, a position your body wants, not one you think you should have. And most of all, permission. Permission to rest, permission to wake, permission to drift between states. Permission to be human, with a body that needs what it needs, not what you think it should need. Can you feel it happening? Even now, you're breathing, slowing naturally. Your muscles releasing without effort. Your thoughts becoming softer, less distinct, like clouds dissolving into sky. This is not you making it happen. This is you allowing what's already happening. Sleep has been approaching this whole time, quietly, patiently, waiting for you to stop resisting. And now that you know the secret, now that you understand, sleep is not conquered but welcomed. You can let it come. The Romans are sleeping in their transition, honored and complete. The Egyptians are sleeping in their darkness, sacred and safe. The monks are sleeping in their rhythm, natural and true. And you can sleep too, not because you're trying, but because you've stopped. Stop fighting, stop forcing, stop fearing. Just allowing. The ancient secret is yours now. Sleep is your birthright. It's been waiting for thousands of years, through all the forgetting, waiting for you to remember. And now you have. So sleep, dear friend. Allow the darkness. Trust the rhythm. Let go. The ancient world sleeps beside you, and their wisdom carries you home. Sleep, sleep, sleep.